Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the podcast. So it is August 6th, right after SmackDown. And if there is any doubt that the Triple H era is not in full swing, you're crazy. And I, for one, did not think we would know. Remember, I said, let's see how subtle these changes are and, slowly go into it. Nope. Triple H has jumped in, with both feet, just hitting the ground running, just giving us his vision. I mean, he is clearly putting, a portion of the McMahon vision, out the door and bringing it in his own, which, he has every right to do and he should do. And Monday was a clear example. Now, I know Riddle wasn't on Raw, but you saw some, subtle changes. I thought Riddle would have been on the show. Triple H is going to keep Seth in there. He's going to keep Riddle in there. Those are his guys. But one of the surprising things was those true triple threat matches, and we haven't seen Mustafa Ali in how long. So I really thought he was going to go over in that match. I was a little surprised that he didn't. But you saw the second triple threat match. And who went over to that? Tommaso Ciampa. So right there, it looks like maybe we might be seeing the beginning of the old Tommaso Ciampa coming back, what we've seen in NXT. And we might be seeing the signs of them finally separating him from The Miz. Because as I said before in the past videos, why is this guy being a lackey for The Miz? This guy is too good to be wasted like that. And that's what I meant when in that other video that I did, that when these guys got called up for the main roster, Vince really didn't do much with a lot of these guys because he probably didn't, he didn't watch NXT, he probably didn't understand the character, and his whole thing is that, and I've seen some of the wrestlers say this too, when you come up to the main roster, it's a different ball game. And to some degree, I do agree with that, but why can't, Tommaso Ciampa come to the main roster as he is? Listen, not everybody who watches Raw and SmackDown watches NXT. Not everybody who watches NXT watches Raw and SmackDown. And I was one of them. I didn't watch NXT on a regular basis. I only watched NXT when it was their takeover events, which were amazing, by the way. So to sit there and say, well, you can't bring the same exact character up, I'm sorry, to me that's bullshit. You can. And then you can make little tweaks, in the future, as I've said, how McMahon likes to, get the character to do different, facets of emotion. And I'm not quite sure where Triple H stands on that, so I'm not sure if we're going to see, Tommaso be this, crazy heel and go to this comedic thing. I don't know. But all I know is that right now, Tommaso has just been a lackey, and I don't think he should be. And I think that was some of the changes right then and there. Besides the fact that loosening up some bad terms that Vince had on there, I know, some of that has changed. But just the fact that we saw Mustafa Ali, just the fact that we saw Tommaso Ciampa win. Now, is he going to take the United States title from Bobby Lashley? I don't know. If he does, I think, yes, we know for sure, we're definitely going to see the old Tommaso. We'll probably see them get away from The Miz. Maybe he'll turn face, turn against The Miz. I don't know. But just the fact that, if I remember correctly, we closed the show with Tommaso, just that fact alone tells me we're going in a different direction. Okay? And now it's SmackDown. Okay? Now, I didn't watch SmackDown. I was out to dinner celebrating a friend's birthday. And for those of you who live in New York, if you're in the city, I would recommend trying Wolfgang Steakhouse. That's where we went yesterday. It was very good, especially that crab cake. It was $25, so you hope it was worth something, or rather it tasted good. So if you're in that area, Broadway or Times Square, definitely go check it out. But anyway, so when I came home, I saw the clip that Karrion Kross returned. And the funny thing about that was, what I had mentioned about in the other video, how it's just too bad that some of these guys aren't here anymore. Like if Cesaro just held out a little longer. I mean, obviously nobody knew that Vince was going to leave or just leave as quickly or whatever. But I was like, man, and I remember saying, I didn't say it on the camera, but I was saying to myself, if Cesaro just hung out, things might change for him. And, it's too bad Adam Cole's gone. Too bad Keith Lee is gone. And I started thinking, hey, maybe Karrion Kross would come back. because I had recently read something that he had pitched an idea to bring back the Ministry of Darkness, the stable that The Undertaker used to run in the late 90s. And sure enough, the guy pops up. So I thought it was just funny that it was in the back of my head. I didn't say it on here, but it was just in the back of my mind. And then the guy pops up. Because, and especially also when I did the video about Sasha and Naomi possibly returning, that, a lot of these guys that were let go, it's a new regime. Why wouldn't Triple H? Now, I don't know if Triple H reached out to him, but he was Triple H. I don't know. That part hasn't come out. We may find out somewhere down the line, how this whole thing came about of him coming back. Maybe you'll find out sooner than you think. Who knows? But it just wasn't beyond that belief. And I had a list in my mind of the top 3 people who they could bring back. Now, number 1 was not Karrion Kross. Number 1 to me was, well, before I even get into the list, you might say, well, what's the no, let me see the list. And Braun Strowman's not on there. He's another who I thought could come back. But my 3 people was, number 1, Bray Wyatt. Bring fucking Bray back. Let that Fiend that Fiend character was really hot, and it was getting going. And they cut the legs out from under it. Number 2 was Karrion Kross. And number 3 was EC3. EC3 did great in NXT. But another one who came to the main roster, and he was useless. They didn't do anything with him. Now, yes, Braun Strowman was let go because his contract was too much. And that goes back to what I said, how could you kind of clash with, the whole co-CEO thing. If Stephanie and Triple H were on board bringing Braun back, but Nick is like, well, no, we get rid of this guy because he costs too much money. Well, and also you had a bloated roster. So you've let a lot of people go. So now maybe you can bring him back without hurting, the balance sheet. Or you can bring him back the same money to stretch it out over more years if that's something he would agree to. There's probably a way you can work it out. Karrion Kross was different. This guy wasn't breaking, no offense to listen, I like Karrion Kross. They were, his contract wasn't breaking the bank. But you can bring Bray Wyatt back, and I think his salary was part of the reason why they got rid of him, but that part most likely got overshadowed because it was more about the creative differences he was having with McMahon. So one, when Randy, set him on fire, he didn't like the costume, he thought it was too heavy and too bulky. And then the whole thing at WrestleMania where he loses and you have Alexa Bliss turn on him. To me, all that was a mistake. I mean, I thought you could have waited longer before you did that turn with Alexa Bliss. And, even when they did it, I thought it was interesting because now it's like, okay, these two are going to clash. What are they going to do? But then we never saw Bray after that. He was gone by that time. And, you've heard Matt Hardy say in interviews that, it was a weird dynamic. Like when Bray did good or they collaborated well, he was like a son. Vince loved him. But when something went wrong, it was just like this deranged father really over punishing their kid. I think he had made a crack about his weight or something like that, or, whatever. And listen, for a big guy that Bray was, excuse me, he was very athletic. I thought he was pretty good. But I'm going to jump back to that in a second. I just want to get back to Karrion Kross. It was a big surprise that he came back. This will probably be, the escape route for them, for Reigns going over Drew at Clash at the Castle. Now, Karrion did come back, as we know, since he's left WWE, he's let his hair grow back. I mean, it's amazing how different he looks with the hair in his head. But, is he going to go back to the old look? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, he's not going to have that stupid helmet, that stupid costume that Vince put him in. And that's what I mean about messing with the character from NXT. When he debuted on Raw, you didn't have Scott, that whole presentation. That's the whole thing that worked. Why are you putting this stupid helmet? Oh, well, it makes him more marketable. It makes him look like an idiot. Okay? You can still make that character marketable. You had the clock, you had the sand thing. I mean, come on. And then you didn't even bring Scarlett back. That's like cutting it off sooner back in the day with Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. That all of a sudden, Paul Bearer just disappears for no reason. When they separated The Undertaker and Paul Bearer for the first time back in 96, I think it was SummerSlam 96, in the Boiler Room Brawl match, there was a reason for why they did it. It was a good reason, but they explained. They didn't just say, okay, you know what, let's say Taker won the match. Next night, Paul Bear's gone. Or Mankind won, but, we just got rid of Paul Bear. There was a reason for it. There was no reason to get rid of Scarlett. And I could be wrong on this, but part of it could have been that they wanted her to wrestle. And I don't know if Scarlett is a wrestler, so I apologize for not knowing that. But, that makes me think about, back in the day with Marlena and Goldust. Marlena did not want to be a wrestler. But Vince, I don't want to say forced her into it, but, Marlena had to get in there a couple of times, and she hated it. Not everybody is a wrestler. Sable. When Sable got there with Mark Merrow, how many times has Vince told that? The story has been told that when Merrow met with Vince, and obviously Merrow, Stable's his wife, he brings his wife with him. All they did was just focus on her, and that she was going to be the star. And eventually they got her in the ring and all this other kind of stuff. And then if you remember when Sable came back the second time at 2003. She didn't wrestle. I think she wrestled once or twice. But, that wasn't the same Sable we had back in the 90s. This was a Sable who didn't want to be in the ring. So I don't know if Scott wanted to be in the ring or not, or if that was the plan, that she was trained to get in the ring because that's what Vince wanted. But there was no reason why she still could be on TV if that was the plan. But he's back now. It's great that he's back. And the other thing, it freshens up the roster. Because they let so many people go. To me, the rosters are just so thin. And I'm not saying bring back every single person you let go. I'm not saying bring them back right away. I mean, yeah, you're going to run the risk of missing some people. I mean, listen, you're not getting Adam Cole back anytime soon. You're not getting Keith Lee back anytime soon. You're not getting Malachi Black. You're not getting, Kyle O'Reilly. You're not getting Bobby Fish back. You're not getting these guys back. These guys signed 3 to 5 year contracts. You're not getting them back anytime soon. So just get that part out of your head. That, okay, maybe they'll get out of their contracts to come back. They're not coming back. They're gone for the time being. But there are other people out there who you let go, who we may not even realize you let go, to freshen up the rosters. Or do 1 or 2 call-ups from NXT. But right there, I'm saying, okay, you could do Karrion Kross versus Roman. You could do Karrion Kross versus Drew, is what we're getting. You could do Karrion Kross and Sheamus. You could do Karrion Kross and Shinsuke. You could do Karrion Kross and Kofi. You could do Karrion Kross and Ricochet. Ricochet's another one who magically popped back up on TV. It looked like he was getting a push with the IC title. He got the IC title. You bring Gunther up. Gunther destroys him, takes it. You haven't seen Ricochet since, and we see him back. You can have Karrion Kross and Gunther at some point if you turn Karrion face. So you freshened up a lot of matches right then and there, and you give us something for Drew to do. Because Drew and Sammy got old. Drew and Sheamus, even though it was a great match that they had last week, that's sort of getting a little bit stale. This is something new for Drew. This is something Drew can do for the rest of the year. They can climax their match at Survivor Series or something. But clearly, the Triple H era is in full force right now. Not only that, they finally made the announcement of the Women's Tag Team Championships, and maybe that's a way to bring back Sasha and Naomi. Because again, you're not negotiating with Vince anymore. Who's the head of talent relations now? Triple H. Who's the head of creative right now? Triple H. Who was in NXT with Triple H? Sasha and Naomi. Well, I don't think Naomi was down there. Was she down there? Yes, she was. She was down there with, what was her name? Carmine, I think. A part of the Funkadactyls. So, listen, when you have a prior relationship, that helps. So I want to continue to pay attention to see, who fades away. Like, we didn't see Omos, we didn't see MVP, we didn't see Cedric Alexander, which we hardly see him anymore. When we see Shelton Benjamin kind of pop up, I don't know. By the way, on Raw, did you also notice that, Chad Gable was in that match? Which was very, he was featured a little bit better. Which he should be. He should be the next Kurt Angle. Or feature Kurt Angle-like. Good changes. For guys like me, fans like me, you got to understand how the eras move. You know, The Rock, Austin, Batista, or those eras are done. Okay, this is Roman, Chad Gable, Mustafa, Ricochet, Shinsuke, AJ. This is all their time now, and now we need to start seeing the new blood coming. Tomasa. This is it. I would even say the Miz is sort of on the outside looking in a little bit. New era. Let the next generation take over. And it looks like, at least at this particular moment, that's what Triple H is ready to do. Look at Shayna Baszler, how dominant she was on SmackDown. That's how she should be booked. That's how Paul Heyman was booking her. Guess who killed that when they decided to take Paul Heyman out of that role? Vince. He made her a joke. He made her more comedic. And I don't think you need to do that with every single character. Or you can do it, but let us get that one side first. And you cut that off so quick. And when it's Liv Morgan versus Shayna needs to do a Brock Lesnar. Remember, I had talked about the SummerSlam match 2014, Brock Lesnar and John Cena, how pretty much Brock just took that title, beat the shit out of Cena. That's what we need to see. I'm sorry, I like Liv Morgan. I think she's great. But you know what? If you're going to put her in that ring with Shayna, again, realistically, she's not going to win. Just like with Ronda. Realistically, they should kill her and take that title. And when they get into that match, Shayna needs to go in there, punch her, kick her, put her in submission, and that's it. It should be a 3-minute match. That's it. And then start building that person who can take her out, which would be the Raquel girl, I think. Start building up that person to be like, okay, this makes sense. Because that's what you're supposed to do. When you have somebody, so let's say you have Karrion Kross, you have Drew and Roman right now. So underneath that, start building up some other guys. Maybe make Baron Corbin a little more realistic that he can be champion. Build up Karrion, build up 3 or 4 guys that's like, okay, we did the Roman and Drew thing now. We can turn and bring Drew down here, and we can move that guy up here, and now Drew can be down here for a while. And then, you just kind of keep going until eventually, it's time for Drew to get back to the top. And then after you've done that cycle maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times, okay, now Drew is going to start going out to pasture maybe. We could keep carrying up there, but now let's get these guys from NXT and just keep that cycle going. The problem under Vince was somewhere along the line, at least in my opinion, it's even been said that Vince complained about it. Somewhere along the line, they were not getting good at making a bunch of starts. It was only a select few. And then you just stuck with those guys and didn't work building up the other people underneath them. And that's why you constantly kept seeing the same guys in the same matches. And also your ego, because the guys that the fans wanted, you didn't want to put in that spot. Chris Jericho just did an interview not too long ago, I saw it on YouTube, where he said, WWE is an audience of one, which is Vince. And if Vince doesn't see you as the guy, you're not the guy. If Vince does, he does. If the fans see you, but Vince doesn't, guess what's not going to happen? And 3 good examples in recent history. Top 3, Ryback, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan. Ryback was hot. The Feed Me More, all that was hot. They looked like they started to put him in that upper echelon, and then they dropped him. CM Punk, fans are clamoring from CM Punk. Took a while, but they finally did it. But was it like, oh yeah, let's just run? No, because Vince thought he was too small, didn't see it. And then we all know the shit with Daniel Bryan. They were trying to shove Roman Reigns down our throats, but they wanted Daniel Bryan. That's when Ray came back at the Royal Rumble. Was that 2015 or something like that? When he came back, and they thought it was going to be Daniel Bryan, and they pretty much booed the rest of the Royal Rumble match. It's probably the worst Royal Rumble in history in terms of crowd reaction. The worst. They booed the people out of the fucking building. They were totally disgusted when The Rock was there, trying to help. It was ridiculous. It might have been 2016. ridiculous. I think Triple H is more apt to listen to the fans. And the shock that you had when Karrion Kross popped back up. Because he was good. I liked him. Great character, great entrance, great everything. And then Vince just, I don't know what the fuck Vince was doing with that one. I don't. But, so far the era's on fire. And like I said, I love the surprises, but I don't want to get too many at one time. If we're going to get another surprise, I would assume that surprise would be Naomi and Sasha coming back. But if you're going to bring back a Braun, bring back a Bray, let's really save that for something special. Let's not lump it all together. Because that's the problem that AEW did. Because AEW has pretty much become WWE Light, and I'm going to do an episode on that. And I'm not saying that's terribly wrong, but, that's what Impact ran into. And I think that was part of their problem. And the problem was that you were debuting so many guys that you didn't get a chance to let that one debut breathe. Christian sort of got overshadowed. I forgot who they brought back. And I think the night that Adam Cole returned, you had somebody else show up, and I can't remember. I have to go back and do the history. But it's like you constantly are overshadowing your returns or your debuts because you're doing them so close together. And you're not giving it a chance to breathe. And I don't want that to happen. And I think Triple H won't let that happen. But a round of applause to Triple H so far, because he is just like taking that script that Vince had, rippity rip. Okay, this is what we're fucking doing. And to me, so far, it's worked out. Now, the one thing that I did see just before I came on to do this was that there was an idea pitched that with Karrion Kross coming back, that both Drew and Karrion would challenge Roman, but separate the belts. Now, I felt, or have felt, it was not necessary for them to unite the titles like that and just make it a winner-take-all match with Brock. Because you know what? If that was going to be the final match, okay, maybe. But, come on. Under Vince, we knew that shit wasn't going to happen. But now you run into the problem of how do you separate the belts now? And I have a vision, or I have an idea, and like I said before, I am no wrestling genius, and I'm quite sure if I'm thinking up this stuff, Triple H and the gang, Bruce, trust me, I'm sure they have thought about this months ago already, okay? Again, I am just a fan. But I would not separate the titles off of Roman. He is the wrong candidate to do that with. Allow him to keep both belts, keep him strong. I know you're tired, I'm just going to say it one time, until hopefully we get that match with him and The Rock. Okay? I think the person after Roman, so let's say, remember one of my scenarios is that Theory cashes in. If Theory cashes in and he wins, I think he is the perfect person to separate the belts from. Because now, let's say Cody is back by now. And let's say you have, he's still feuding with Ziggler, let's just say. It's like, listen, you know what? I'm not facing you or whatever, or let's just deal with Cody for now. He can say, you know what? I'm not, putting my titles on the line. Or then maybe, Cody can say, well, fine, I'll take that one off your shoulder or whatever. Or Theory can say, you know what, I'll only put one up against you. You earned your opportunity, fine, but you know what? I'm only going to put one belt up against you. It sounds better. That sounds better coming from somebody other than Roman. That would fit a character of Theory saying, I'm not going to put both my belts on the line. I'm only going to put one up. And I think that helps you separate the titles. I think it's easier if you do it like that. If Roman does it, it doesn't sound right, and I think that adds an element of weakness to him because he's been made out to be so strong. But I think that comes better off of somebody who is not Roman. I mean, let's say it was Baron Corbin who won it. That would sound better for Baron Corbin if he had cashed in and he won the titles and then he was confronted. Because I think we all know that at least after WrestleMania, like I said, I don't know where Cody's going to fall in, but I think it's pretty clear that 2023, Cody's going to be a champion. Now, unless Triple H gets a little bit of the Vince air and says, you know what, let's really stretch this out until 2024. I don't know. But I think it's safe to say next year, 2023, Cody's going to have a title run. The question is, where is that title run going to happen? Or, again, will they build that story that it's going to happen in 24? Vince was always about giving select people that special moment at WrestleMania. Does Triple H see that? I don't know, because, there's another little dynamic. But I think they smooth things over anyway. But, the whole thing with, Cody smashing the throat of Triple H on one of the AEW shows, all that kind of stuff. But, in a way, I'm sure Triple H could even appreciated something like that anyway. But anyway, I just think that's the way you separate the titles, because apparently, I think it was USA Network, they wanted a championship prominently featured on the show because Roman's hardly there. And I remember saying back in the day when they had split the shows, split the roster, I liked the fact that the one who was the champion could travel to both shows. But Roman in this era is a little bit different. Roman's more special, and you don't want that character to get stale. Again, if they change the rule and let's say Theory's champion, because I do believe I do believe Theory will be champion next year. I just can't see him cashing in this year. I really can't. I really think it's going to be next year. I think I kind of lost my train of thought. I think that even if they don't split it, Theory is a character that you can put on both shows. And then, ultimately this, or if you just want to keep it simple and don't want to have to worry about, okay, how are we going to get both belts off? Do what you've done before in the past. Just get rid of the Universal title, keep the one belt, and just say this is the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship belt. Just have one belt. Or just do that. Just go the simple route and just unify it. That's all you got to do. It's one or the other. But if you want to make it more interesting and you want to, and you don't want to do that, and you want to say, okay, no, let SmackDown have his champion, let Raw have his champion. Well, I think the person to do that with is a heelish person, which I think is Theory. I think that's easier to do it because it makes more sense for his character to be like, okay, whoa. I'll only put one title on the line. I'm not putting both. That doesn't sound right coming from Roman. At this point, it doesn't sound right. But that was this other little nugget that I just noticed. But I'm going to get out of here. But, I just wanted to come on just to comment about Karrion Kross and just comment about how well I think Triple H is doing right now. Tell me if you agree. And, some of these guys looks like they might be getting their feature back. Looks like we might be seeing more Ricochet. Let's see if we see more of Mustafa Ali. It doesn't look like that stupid male model shit is going anywhere anytime soon. I wish they would just get rid of that stupid thing. But actually, somebody else who could come back the proper way? I forgot what his wrestling name was, but the guy who was T-Bar in the Retribution thing. He has some good matches with Keith Lee in NXT. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, and I would bet he would come back to Raw. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we get some Let's see if we get some old guys coming back. Let's see if we see Bray coming back. Let's see if we see Nia Jax coming back. I'm not really a fan of Nia Jax, but let's see. And let's see some of these other women who've come back up. I can't remember her name. She's an Asian lady that was there. She was on Raw. She was on SmackDown. We only saw her like 2 or 3 times. Then she disappeared. Let's see. Let's really see this mega difference. But my next episode that I want to do is most likely going to be on AEW. On two of them. Why I think AEW is becoming stale. And is AEW on its way of being the next WCW? Meaning, if you guys have not heard, there have been changes at Warner Brothers. Okay? Warner Brothers and Discovery have merged. And the new CEO has been pretty much what Nick Khan was doing, just slashing shit left and right. And they're going to make some drastic changes to HBO Max. They've cut a lot of people already. There's already been talk about that they're going to, defunk TBS, which where's AEW on TBS. And if you have this takeover, and just like WCW, if you have people who don't give a shit about wrestling, there's no hope for you. So, not quite sure what's going to happen with that. I'm going to get into that more next week or the week after, but I'm going to, do some AEW stuff because, there's more out there than WWE, but it's just that WWE has been hot lately. But I hope you enjoyed this. Again, as I always say, please leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you agree, disagree. Tell me the visions that you have for the championships or for certain characters. Tell me if I just ramble too much, if you agree, disagree, whatever. But, subscribe, watch the show. Let's get this thing off the ground and just give me your thoughts. It's a community thing, Be honest. Tell me, hey, dude, it sucks. Hey, dude, I think your idea sucks. Hey, I think your idea is great. Give it to me. I want to know. I want this to be good. I want it to be better. Talk to you later.